Hey, it's FeralInferno, and today we are back with our Game of the Year series. Really excited to talk about some more games going back throughout history of FeralInferno, the true Games of the Year. And we have a new system that we haven't talked about in the Game of the Year series yet. So really excited. We actually have a couple entries for that particular system. So stay tuned, grab a drink, and let's relive some great memories of the true Games of the Year for these years. First up, we're going to take a look at the year 2009. And 2009 brought us Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story. Love this cover art. Just want to talk about that real quick. Take a look at this cover art. Really, really fantastic. Love this cover art. It's really plain. A lot of white space being used here. But that's okay. I think that's all right. It's really conveying a lot here with Mario, Luigi, and Bowser and their roles in the story. It's really uncanny what they did with this. It looks very simple, but there's a lot going on. So we got Mario and Luigi very large here, and then we got Mario and Luigi here on the logo very small, right? And then here's Bowser. Very large in comparison to Mario and Luigi. So what's going on here? So Bowser's Inside Story, really great mechanic that they had in this RPG. This is a Mario RPG. This would technically be Mario RPG number maybe 6, I think. Because we got the Mario RPG series, the Paper Mario series, and Mario and Luigi series. Really amazing to think that there's 3 different Mario RPG series. Now that I think about it, that's kind of cool. But in this game, the mechanic is that Mario and Luigi, they work together, right? So that's the only 2 people you really have on your team for the most of the adventure. You have Mario and Luigi, and they have team attacks. Very similar to Chrono Trigger, but a little bit more, I guess you'd say, interactive. There's button timing presses just like in Paper Mario and Mario RPG. And there's you kick the shell back and forth to each other. You take turns doing fireballs. There's hammer attacks and jump attacks where they jump on each other to do team attacks. Really great mechanics in these games. This was the 3rd Mario and Luigi game. I played the first one. I never played the second one. The second one didn't really appeal to me too much, so I kind of skipped that one. But this one here, Bowser's Inside Story, was an amazing adventure. And what you do is you have Mario and Luigi, but you also have segments where you play as Bowser. Not only that, there's segments where Mario and Luigi go inside Bowser's body. They get very tiny, and they have to help Bowser out by going inside and clearing out monsters and whatever else might be going on. Thus, Bowser's Inside Story. Really fun story. The dialogue is fantastic. They got great fake Italian kind of voices going like, oh, beepity boopity boppity boo. Really makes you laugh. I love the dialogue in this. And I didn't play the first Mario and Luigi. I played it in 2007, so it wasn't. It was about 2 years before I ended up playing this game, and it was very late to it. It was a Game Boy Advance game, and I was like, "Wow, I can't believe I had skipped out on this game." It was really amazing because I didn't actually have. I've never owned a Game Boy Advance. I didn't start playing Game Boy Advance until I got a Nintendo DS because the original original Nintendo DSs had a Game Boy Advance slot on them. I believe the DSi's got rid of that.
Perfect.
But really cool way to, still get a Game Boy Advance system. It was all in one. I was waiting for these systems to go down in price, and I ended up skipping the Game Boy Advance. I should have done that, but it was okay because the Nintendo DS had it on there, so I was like, hey, no reason for me to go get a Game Boy Advance when the Nintendo DS will come down in price eventually, and I'll have a Game Boy Advance slot in there to play those games. But I digress. So I really enjoyed the first one. I had to pick up this one and really enjoyed it. This is my favorite Mario and Luigi RPG game. I played a few others. I think it was like Dream Factory or Luigi's Dream or something like that. I think it was for the Nintendo 3DS. I really didn't like it. I played it the first maybe 3 or 4 hours of it, ended up selling it to an acquaintance of mine when I used to manage a gaming group in my local area. So got rid of it, but I do actually have the 3DS version. There's already a remake of this game, and I gotta get to that game and replay this sometime soon because it was a lot of fun. And we're going over a little over 10 years now since I last played it, so I don't remember all the details of the game. As I'm gonna go in a little bit fresh, still knowing a little bit, but the thing about RPGs is that you get these great stories, whether they're funny or grand, sad, happy, whatever it may be. It helps you going into it and not knowing a whole lot. And we're gonna take a look as have our journey through time here, right? Let's take a look at some of the stuff that's in here. There's the normal like hey, join Club Nintendo, whatever. But manuals. We talked about manuals before. Again, they went for a very simple theme here, the white theme on this manual. But very lovely manual. Very lovely manual. It kind of goes over the mechanics that are in here as well. They go over, hey, these are the Bowser, and when you're inside Bowser, trying to help him out and everything. Hey, the Bowser segments. When you're using Bowser, hey, here's how to use Bowser. So I miss these manuals. And yeah, this is a great game. It's got a great conclusion to it as well. I don't want to spoil anything, but kind of a cool thing that you don't really see in the Mario and Luigi series towards the end. So if you want to talk about that in the comments, yeah, feel free to leave a comment saying you played Mario and Luigi, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we won't spoil it for everybody else. But hey, if you're looking for a RPG to kind of get into, test your feet a little bit, and it turns you off a little bit. The Dragon Warrior / Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy turn-based series for classic JRPGs. Now with Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default. If that kind of turns you off a little bit, and you want to try something else and dip your toes in the waters of RPGs, this is a good place to start because they don't hammer it, really hammer it home with the turn-based battles and the grinding. They do a very good job of balancing gameplay in this. So not terribly difficult. It's easier on the easier side, but still a joy to play. Hey, we're not done with Nintendo DS yet, so don't change that dial. We've still got one more Nintendo DS game to talk about. And now we're talking about the 2007 Game of the Year, another Nintendo DS game, and this game actually surprised me. Now, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, I had a feeling that could be a Game of the Year nominee. This next game, really didn't know. I actually held on to this game. I got this game, I believe, for Christmas or my birthday. It was either at the end of 2006 or the beginning of 2007. It was somewhere around that time frame that I received this game. And I think I got it maybe from my ex for a gift for one of those holidays. And wow, really, really surprised me was Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. One of our first times talking about a Castlevania game in depth on the series, the Game of the Year series, that is. Wow, this I really liked. Symphony of the Night. I like that style. Not all Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Metroidvania style Castlevania games are treated equally, right? They're not all the same. Some are better than others. I wasn't terribly fond of some of the Game Boy Advance ones. It just wasn't as grand as Symphony of the Night for some of those. And I was kind of turned off this a little bit for a little while in the Castlevania series. I still loved the Symphony of the Night, but just going forward, some of the newer entries. But you know what? I saw Portrait of Ruin. I said, hey, it looks a little bit different. Let me give it a shot. Hey, there's a guy and a girl on here. It's the guy looks a little bit different. It's a little bit more anime inspired as well. And we got Jonathan and Charlotte. And if you ever played Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, you will never, ever forget their names. Jonathan and Charlotte. Why won't you forget their names? Well, as fun as this game is, they're going to hammer home those names really, really hard on you. So really cool thing about this Castlevania game that sets it apart from other Castlevania games is that you can switch in between Jonathan and Charlotte. And it's during the game. They're both on screen at the same time. But when you switch, so if you're Jonathan, he'll go, Charlotte. And then if you're Charlotte, she'll go, Jonathan. Jonathan, Charlotte, Jonathan, Charlotte. So and one of the mechanics is, really switching between them to really maximize things in battle because they play very differently. Now, you see that Jonathan's got the whip here, but he's your melee fighter. You know, he can use the swords, the maces, the whips, all those different types of weapons. So he can use all those melee close-range weapons to really rack up the damage, get some combos in. Charlotte here, you see she's got a tome or a book, but I believe they call them tomes in this game. Charlotte, wow, she's got some really killer magical abilities, and they change based on the tomes that you get. You can learn different spells, and cycling through the two of them it takes a little getting used to be honest with you. It does take a little getting used to, but you can do other types of combos attacks with them as well. But once you start learning how to kind of like fight some of these monsters, learn their weaknesses, hey, how you can like maybe stun them maybe with a magic spell, and then to start just wailing on them with a sword or a whip with Jonathan, man, the combat in this game is a lot of fun. It starts off a little slow, I will say that. The first few hours of the game is a little bit slow because they're trying to introduce you, right, to the mechanics of the game. They're not trying to, hit you too hard with it. But as you go on, wow, it gets a lot. It gets very challenging, but also fun at the same time. One of my favorite Castlevania games. This one doesn't get enough love. It really doesn't. I know, Symphony of the Night and some of the originals like Castlevania 3, Super Castlevania get so much love. Even the original Castlevania gets a lot of love. But in terms of 2D Castlevania games, this one kind of goes under the radar. This was the best 2D Castlevania game on the Nintendo DS. Get my systems mixed up there, but the best one on the Nintendo DS and one of the best in the series. If you're looking for a good Castlevania game and you haven't experienced Portrait of Ruin, get yourself a copy. However you can. I don't know what this game goes for on price charting eBay, but find a copy of this game, play it. You'll really enjoy it. If you love the Castlevania games, this is one of the best. 2006. What a year for gaming. A lot of things changed in 2006. And 2006 kind of really invigorated my passion for gaming again with a lot of innovation. This game was very important, and a game I was looking forward to for a long time. Was actually supposed to come out on another system and end up coming out on this system. It doesn't matter what system you played on, they're both great. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Today we're going to be talking about the Wii version, however. And it's none other than the launch title for the Wii, one of the launch titles anyways, The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. And as much as I love this game, there was another game that did kind of almost edge it out, and it was a very important game as well, was Wii Sports. The Wii brought a whole new dimension to gaming with motion controls. Now, motion controls have been around in gaming. There was a Dragon Quest game with a sword that went back, I think, in the early mid-90s. I think it was Dragon Quest Kenshin, I believe it was called. Correct me if I'm wrong, Perfect. In the contents. It's been a while, but it was very simple. The Wii was amazing, but Twilight Princess was what I was really looking forward to for many years. So Twilight Princess definitely won out for Game of the Year, although it was a little bit close, I will say. But Twilight Princess was a lot of fun. The motion controls, I think, enhanced the game in some ways, and in other ways it hurt the game. How did it hurt the game? Let's get some of the bad stuff out of the way first. A couple of different motions that you do in this, in Twilight Princess with the motion controls. I believe there was, like, with blocking the shield was a little bit tricky. Stabbing the sword, when you're doing your pushing motions, that could be a little tricky. That's okay. The biggest problem was the fishing. I never, ever got a great handle on the fishing motion controls for Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. The fishing controls were garbage for the Wii, and it really frustrated me. In the very beginning of the game, there's a little fishing minigame you gotta do. You gotta catch some fish for a cat in the village, and I was stuck on it for like probably an hour or two, and I still remember that as being a very big sour point for my first foray into Twilight Princess and motion controls. Fortunately, when I first got my Wii, I powered up, I went to the midnight launch, I powered up Wii Sports and had a blast with that. So the motion controls, I had a great first impression at least with Wii Sports. But, they are okay. Again, I did enjoy swinging the sword around as Link. That was great. It wasn't kind of as advertised, right? They kind of made it sound like, hey, it's one-to-one motion. Nintendo and Miyamoto really kind of sold it. At E3 and other events, how great it was going to be with the motion controls. It wasn't that great. It got better with Skyward Sword, and with the Wii Motion Plus that they added to the remotes. So it did get a little bit better, but no, good and bad. We got to be fair. It wasn't all bad, but it would have been nice to have an option to use regular controls. And it could have been very easily implemented. And the reason why I say it could be very easily implemented was because there was a GameCube version of this game that came out around the same time. I think it might have been like a week or two after, if I remember correctly. There might have been a delay of when the GameCube version came out. Probably because they didn't want to hurt the sales of the Wii version. Perfect. But that had the regular controls. It was mirrored. So anybody who has played, there's 3 different versions of Twilight Princess. There's a GameCube version, the Wii version, and the Wii U version. The Wii U version is based off of the GameCube version. So that was kind of cool for me, just talking about Twilight Princess a little bit, in the history of that. When I played the Wii U version, my memory was flipped. I was like, oh, hey, I remember going right here, but is it actually going left? So because everything had to be mirrored. Why did they do that? Why were the GameCube and Wii versions so drastically different with the mirroring? The reason being is that Link is normally, in most games, left-handed with his sword. However, the majority of people, hashtag not all, but most people are right-handed. So they had to prioritize having Link have his sword in the right hand. But in order to do that, they had already started making this game on the GameCube years before they started the Wii version. So they had to mirror everything because it changed the game dramatically. It seems like a simple switch, right? Changing left hand to right hand, but it wasn't. They had to literally mirror the entire world to get this game to work on the Wii. So I really admire their tenacity to get this game working on the Wii in time for launch. And it was a beautiful game. We talked a lot about the controls, but in terms of the actual game, this was a great Legend of Zelda. It's a little bit different. It does have its flaws, don't get me wrong, in terms of we talked about the controls. Some of the enemies are a little bit darker of a story. That's what fans were asking for. So that turned some people off, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the wolf mechanic. They did a great job of, this introduced Wolf Link. Midna is your companion character. All the 3D Zelda games have some type of companion character typically. And Navi and Ocarina of Time. You had another fairy, I think it was Tattle, in Majora's Mask. Perfect. Wind Waker had Tetra with the pendant and all that. And this one had Midna, who rode on your back. You can see her on the back here. I'm not sure why you can see it, but if not, I'll put a picture of her on the screen. She was a sassy character with a great story. And I really wish they'd bring that type of companion character back into the Legend of Zelda series. She was really a breath of fresh air when it came to your companion character. She wasn't annoying. And it was kind of cool. She kind of spoke this Twilight language when she comes, she would had this cool little language. It was very charming, and there was a cool surprise with her at the end. We won't spoil that either, but there's a lot to Midna. She's not just a companion character, she's a character of the game, and that was a really great mechanic. And this is one of the top Zelda games, and doesn't get enough love, I don't think, because this got a little bit of hate, even back in the day, and some people aren't fond of it. It doesn't really ever appear on when you get top Zelda list, you don't ever see it as the #1 game for anybody. And I think that's kind of sad that you don't see that a lot. So I'd love to know in the comments what you think of Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Where does it rank for you in the Legend of Zelda games? Is it your favorite? Is it your least favorite? Where does it fall for you if you're a big Zelda fan? One of the things I'd like to know. Again, we'll take a look at the manual here. Oh yeah, I did something kind of funny here too. I this little I forgot all about that. I haven't opened up this case in years. I got a dual case V case here, to hold 2 discs for Twilight Princess. It didn't come with that, but I had a CD for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time soundtrack, and I was trying to downsize. I had a small apartment at the time, so I was getting rid of, like, CD cases and things like that. So there was a game that I got. I can't remember what game it was, but it was a 2-pack. It might have been Dragon Ball Z, actually. I think this was Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 case. I think it came with like a best of fights or something for Dragon Ball. Perfect. Dragon Ball Z DVD in there, and I switched it out and put the little Ocarina of Time soundtrack in here. So a little cool Easter egg from FeralInferno from my history. Totally forgot about that. So a little surprise here, live on camera with you guys. But again, we got the manual. Beautiful art on this manual. Really great that they had this, because they wanted to show you, like, hey, here's how you play the game. And you see, like, it's very dark imagery on here. Even the background is very dark. So that's the theme of this game. Twilight. Even that name Twilight. You're approaching darkness, right? But yeah, I love the story in this game. It's really good. There are a lot of twists and turns with it, and I really liked how they portrayed Ganondorf in this game as well. So yeah, that was our games of the year for these years. Had a great time reminiscing and talking about these games, the good, the bad, the ugly for these games. And of course, I always like to know, what was your games of the years for these years that we talked about? What was your game of the year for these years? I'd love to know. Please let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you have any experience with these games as well. And of course, before we go, we have to declare a champion for these years. What if all 3 of these games came out in the same year? What would happen? Who would win? The answer may surprise you, and when I thought about it, it actually surprised me a little bit too. And it's a tougher decision than I thought it'd be. It's a very close call with all 3 of these games. But the game that I have to go with is Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Very surprising, right? Probably thought it was going to be Zelda Twilight Princess. And that was my first inclination, was to go with Twilight Princess. However, Castlevania Portrait of Ruin is one of my favorite Castlevania games. And I love the mechanic between Jonathan and Charlotte. Jonathan! Charlotte! Jonathan! Charlotte! Jonathan! Charlotte! Love it. They really made both these characters very unique and played different. It really reminded me a little bit. I know we talked about Chrono Trigger a little bit with Mario and Luigi, but it kind of the combos that you could do with them reminded me of Chrono Trigger, but in a 2D Metroidvania platforming action game. Really great, the combos you could do with these 2 characters, and you can create your own combos too, right? Like, hey, maybe your jump, one's helping you do a double jump or something, but there's design combos and combos you design. Love that about Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Really would also love to know if you played this game. Let me know your experiences, because not enough people talk about this game on YouTube. If you've got a channel, do a video on this. Play it, do a video on it. Let us know what you think of this game. And if you are just one of those silent people out there that haven't talked about it, now's your chance. Now's your chance for your voice to be heard on the FeralInferno Game of the Year video. Thanks again, everybody, for coming in. Really appreciate it. Love doing these Game of the Year videos for you and for myself as well. We'll see you on the next one, and take care.